Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to NCI Technologies training. And today's subject is going to be remote working, a blueprint for the future. First of all, I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name's James Scott, and as I've said, I work for NCI Technologies and we're based in Cornwall. My contact details are all on the screen. Don't worry about writing them down. If you don't get a chance at this point, please leave a little message in the Q&A section to the right hand side of your screen, and I will drop you a quick email after our session today. Joining me today, I have the able assistance of Joanna Williams, who will be picking up on the questions and answers pod and answering any questions that you care to throw at us. This session is designed to be interactive, so if you come up with any questions that you want answering, please do feel free to enter them into the live Q&A, and either Joanna or myself will give you an answer. We'll pick out the best questions that come up, or the most frequent questions that come up, and we will answer those live at the end of the session. As I said, today's session is remote working, a blueprint for the future. This session is designed to give a little bit of background in how the United Kingdom got to be in the position it's in at the moment, with our lockdown in place and our lockdown that's been extended for another couple of weeks. I do know that there are some delegates joining us today from other countries, namely the US. I'd like to extend them a very warm welcome and tell them what to look forward to in the coming months, as we're a little bit ahead of the US curve at the moment. We'll be looking at the decisions that have been made by others, and this will help us to develop the blueprint for the future and how we can have a successful working from home or remote working policy. Before we begin, what I like to ask people to do is to, on a bit of paper or just in their brain, scribble down a number between 1 and 10 about how much you know about working from home. This number is not to be shared with anybody or anything like that. It's just so that you can give yourself an honest appraisal of your knowledge. And then at the end of today's session, I will also ask you to do the same. And what I hope to see is that there's been a change for the better. So the scoring scale that I like to use is 0 for I know nothing and 10 for I know everything. If there's any 10s out there, I'd be really grateful if you could make yourself known in the questions and answers, and I will let you take over the session for me. I only rate myself a 8 or a 9 because things keep on changing and we constantly need to keep on top of the information. So where are we now? All UK residents, apart from key workers, have been asked to work from home where possible. Non-essential businesses have been severely curtailed in the way that they can work. Some are no longer operating and some are working at hugely reduced capacities. A large number of the UK workforce has been either made redundant or furloughed. Cybersecurity threats have increased dramatically and have been very specifically tailored towards the COVID-19 outbreak. Because of changing purchase habits within the world market, IT hardware costs have gone up by about 25 to 40%. We are now starting to see that number reduce, but it did cause a severe spike due to purchasing and demand. And that has led us to have very, very low stock levels available in the channel. The UK's infrastructure is also under huge amounts of stress like never before. Internet connections and voice connections have really been struggling, especially in the early days of our lockdown in this country, with 4G connections not being able to provide internet. So how did we get here? I'm not going to focus too much on what happened, but we got here through a series of very interesting events. The first one was a pandemic that could not have been reasonably predicted to have happened, so there would have been no way to say on this day this is going to happen. That's not to say that we couldn't have planned and had a business continuity plan in place. The UK government did not issue businesses clear guidance soon enough for many businesses to make clear and informed decisions, and lots of businesses were forced into situations that really didn't help them to prepare for our lockdown situation. This led to rapid changes in buying habits and IT supply shortages. Whilst we can focus on the many bad things that have happened recently, and my sincere condolences go out to anybody that's got any member of their family that's suffering currently with COVID-19. But what I'd like to focus on is what good has come from this event. How can we turn this to our business's advantage? The first good thing that's come out of this is that businesses in the UK, but also worldwide, have proved how resilient they can be. Our employees have gone above and beyond to help our customers. This has led to reinforced relationships with customers, and also it's opened new opportunities and markets to some businesses. It's also provided us with an unprecedented opportunity to modernise our working practices for the 21st century. We can learn from businesses that have made a positive change. The things that we can learn from them are around our planning. As I said in one of the earlier slides, do you have a business continuity plan that would have enabled you to swiftly work from home without lots of upheaval? If you had that plan, did your trusted partners have that plan? So your IT service provider, your outsourced accountancy, your HR people? And has that plan ever been tested? The other thing that we've learned quite a lot from recently is small businesses that listened to their workforce and picked up very quickly on the changing environment tended to come out of this situation a lot better and a lot quicker. For anybody interested in learning more about business continuity planning, I will be running a session on this next month, and I will ask Joanna to send out to everybody that's here today a link to the next session so that you can expand on that. The question that we get asked time and time again following the COVID-19 outbreak is, should everybody work from home? It's not a simple answer. Everybody should work from home as much as they can at the moment. That doesn't mean that it's either desirable or possible in the longer term for everybody to be a home worker or a remote worker. Some jobs just don't allow for it. However, there are parts of many jobs that can lend themselves to working from home. So it might be that our workforce starts to become split between the office and remote working. And the other thing that we need to bear in mind with any home working or remote working policy is it's not for every type of personality. Some people just do not like it. What will the COVID-19 outbreak change? It's going to change a lot of things for us. The first thing that's going to change is our workforce. More staff are going to ask for flexible working, and more staff are going to be asking to work from home. Flexible working has made employers significantly more interesting for the millennial job seekers. 71% of remote workers were happy with their jobs, whereas just 55% were happy when they were on-site workers. And 90% of our remote workers have expressed an interest in continuing some form of remote working for the rest of their career. The UK's Office of National Statistics has produced figures for the 10-year period 2008 to 2018. And you can see that in the UK, there has been a steady growth in the number of remote workers or home workers, with the total number nearly doubling with people working from home. This is a very significant change and has only been escalated with the COVID-19 outbreak. We can see by looking at more progressive working economies that they have made huge gains over that period in encouraging the percentage of workforce to work from home. What we can see in the UK is that whilst the numbers of people working remotely has increased, as a percentage of the working population, it has actually decreased. This has happened mainly because the number of jobs that have been created recently in the UK have not lent themselves to remote working, or the employers themselves have not lent themselves to remote working. What the statistics show us is that remote working is more prevalent amongst senior staff. The typical remote employee is an intelligent, educated and motivated individual. And these people tend to be the people that are working their way up the corporate ladder. Across all industries, around 18% of executives work remotely at least one day per week. The highest proportion of remote workers currently is in the founders and exec level of employees, and that is around 55% of all employees. An interesting number comes out of the statistics that around 70% of the 18 to 34-year-old category are remote workers, whereas only 51% of the 45 to 60-year-old category. This is having an effect on recruitment. By adopting a remote worker policy, we're going to expand the talent pool that we can recruit from, and we're going to get the best person for the job, not the best person who lives nearest our office. Employees in their 20s and 30s value meaningful experience more than possessions, and they want to be able to pay attention to the important aspects of their lives. Following table shows a breakdown by age demographics of what the employable population are looking for when they're working from home, to enable us to better tailor our working environment and our job adverts. we can look at this table and see that if you were advertising for a junior role, this is a role typically taken by the younger age group, you could phrase things such as not having the stress of having to commute, whereas for a senior role, you may phrase the role advert in a slightly different way and talk about the cost saving of not having to travel. This enables us to target our chosen employees in a far more refined manner. What will stop us achieving the remote workplace? The biggest roadblock to achieving the remote workplace is fear and misunderstanding. The fear and misunderstanding factor is prevalent in any change we make in our workplace, and providing we can deal with this quickly and efficiently, we're able to remove these roadblocks. The fear and misunderstanding is broken down into three groups: your directors, your managers, and your staff. The first roadblock that many directors come up with is it's going to cost more money. On the surface, this may appear correct, as you will need to implement secure access for them and purchase laptops. But when you take a step back, your business should be investing in secure access to and from the internet using things like firewalls anyway. So the true cost may only be that you need to purchase some extra licenses. Typically, these licenses are around £50 per user. Yes, you will need to give your user the device to work from at home. It makes sense in most instances for this device to be a laptop, but that's not always the case. Any employee within your organisation would need to be provided with a computer anyway when they start working, so that cost has already been built in to your total employability cost. If you're looking at existing users and making them remote, it may be that you're able to repurpose a device that you already have within the organisation and give that user a laptop. Or it may be that the user is able to take home their existing desktop computer and use that to work remotely. We can also now start to have the conversation about cost savings for directors. As a business with more remote workers, we're able to look at some of the business costs that we incur anyway. We can look at our office space, for example. Do we need the same size office? Are we able to downsize the size of the physical building? Do we need to provide as much parking for our staff? All of these things have both a seen and an unseen cost. By having a smaller office, we reduce our rates costs and many other on costs as well. How do you know that you're getting the best from your staff? Many studies over the years have shown, and from my personal experience, I can back this up, that when employees are removed from the distraction and noise and even office politics of a busy workplace, the majority of remote workers experience a boost in performance when left to their own devices. Whilst the chart on the screen at the moment shows the IWG Global Workplace Survey for March 2019 of around 15,000 business people, there are statistics available from both the UK and the US with far more sector-based information, but these show broadly the same trends. Managers often come up with, I don't trust my team to work at home, I don't trust them to be out of my sight, I need to have everyone in the office. Managing a team is hard work. If you've been doing it for a long time, it's hard to change the way that you manage. Many managers and supervisors often find the transition from working in an office to working remotely difficult. They can feel like they're losing control over their team. We need to provide support and training in how to manage in this new working environment. Here at NCI, I am able to offer training and mentoring for managers that are making this transition. Again, if anybody would like to reach out to me about this, please do just leave a note in the Q&A section and I will be delighted to come back to you. We can provide some tools and some tips for managers, and these are the 5 or 6 that I've come up with based on many years of managing staff remotely and also being a remote worker. The staff that I've managed have both been working from their own homes and from customer sites. Whenever possible as a manager, you should set aside time for a one-on-one, face-to-face meeting via video call. Even better, if you're a manager that is mobile, you can drop in and see your team members every now and again. Phone calls, emails, quick Teams messages, texts, they only go so far. Your team needs to see you and know that you have dedicated time for them. You need to see them as well. The good news is that services like Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts make this an easy task, and as a bonus, many organisations already have this in place and are already paying for it through services such as Office 365. When you're first starting out as a manager of a remote team, you should be contacting every member of your team every day. The purpose is a simple one. It's to set the agenda for the day and provide feedback and resourcing for your team. It cannot be stressed enough that you need to communicate with your team throughout the day, and it needs to be in a way that your team and the individuals in your team feel most comfortable. For example, for myself, all I need is a quick Teams message from my line managers every day, just going, "Are you okay?" Some people need an email, some people prefer texts. A sense of loneliness and isolation can often set in very quickly if you've been used to working in a busy an office environment and you're suddenly moved out of that environment to something far quieter. This communication should not be just limited to work, but it should also contain the same little conversations that you would have if your employee was in the office. Asking questions like, did you have a good weekend? How are the kids? That sort of thing, to build up a rapport and maintain the closeness of your team. As a manager, you need to make sure that you know what tools are available to you, what technologies are out there and that you have access to, and how to use them to your best. Microsoft will be presenting with us in about a month and a half's time how to use Microsoft Teams. If you're interested in this session, please do let us know and I'll make sure that you are invited. Microsoft will be showing us how to use all of the little features within Teams to ensure that our remote workers are kept happy and safe. With our remote teams, just like teams in the office, we need to make sure that we are setting and managing expectations constantly. This means defining the scope, the deadlines and the deliverables for each task or project your team is working on. If you don't do this, don't be surprised that if in a few weeks from now you find yourself wondering what everyone was doing. Everyone worked in a different way, and as part of a remote team, That's no different. As a manager, you do not want to focus on activities, but on the outcomes. What I mean by this is that you don't need to see your team and monitor them constantly and have them tell you what they're doing every second of the day. What you need to do is have them telling you when they reach their milestones and what is preventing them from reaching these milestones. As a manager, just as you would in a conventional office environment, you need to make sure that your team is properly resourced and that you're providing all of the resourcing and tools that they need. There are lots of clever ways of working out resourcing levels. There's lots of clever tools out there to enable you to do this. But in my years of experience, I've honestly found the best way to do this is just to ask your team, have they got everything they need? Is there anything that would make their life easier? Most importantly, trust your team. At the moment, that is especially a valuable lesson and a valuable point to take on board. Understand that in the current environment, your team has got a lot going on. That's not to say it's an excuse for not getting things done, but it is a reason to reconsider what productivity really means. Punching a clock for 8 hours is out. Regular work hours are probably out for many people as well. Instead, you need to trust your team and give them the freedom and flexibility to get work done on a schedule that helps them be the most productive. That's good for your team and good for your business in the long run. A good example of that is within my team at the moment, I am a very, very morning-based person. A lot of my good work and a lot of my productivity is done between 8 a.m. and 12 o'clock. And by being given the freedom to work before 9 o'clock in my most effective period of my day, I'm able to produce far more tangible results for NCI. Staff also have many fears about working from home, whether they are the people that are working from home or whether they are part of the team that are not able to work from home. The common thing you hear from staff that are still working in an office environment is that the people working at home won't work as hard. They'll be at home with their feet up watching Ricky Lake or Judge Judy on repeat. Staff working from home often feel that they're not part of the greater team of the company. And to combat this, we need to put in place a work from home culture. On the right hand side of the screen at the moment is a very, very basic working from home culture that can be adopted into many, many organisations and can be tailored to suit exactly what you're trying to do and trying to achieve. The first thing that needs to be made clear within any organisation is the value of the remote workers. They are just as valuable as those working on site. This may mean that we need to refine or redefine our company values as a whole. We need to make a better communications culture within our business. We need to communicate new team arrivals in front of everybody in the company, not just the team that they're working with. And the same for people that are leaving the business as remote workers. This should be done and everybody in the company should know about it. Many workplaces do encourage and have a very progressive and open environment for providing feedback. We just need to make sure that that continues on into the remote working world. We also need to make sure that as we're introducing new technologies, that we are keeping up our expectations on communication styles, and we need to be aware of the water cooler effect, especially for internal conversations where people can get sucked into many sort of divergent conversations. The final point in our culture that we need to change is coming up with a standard that we can measure our employee engagement against. In an office, it's easy to see who are the team players and what's going on. Remotely, this is a little bit more difficult, but if as a manager you're in touch with your team, then you're able to make this decision and differentiation yourself. What do we need to put in place once we've decided that we're going to adopt a remote workers or a home workers policy? Things that we need to be thinking about are remote worker contracts, remote worker packages, support for managers, and our company culture making it the norm to work from home. So a remote worker contract is very easy to set up. Just talk to either your HR team or your outsourced HR advisor, who will either be able to provide you with a remote workers contract or adjust your existing contracts to cover remote working and working from home. Remember that remote workers and home workers don't always need to be working from home or working out of the office. It is possible to have the best of both worlds, where you work in the office environment for 2 or 3 days a week and work from home a couple of days a week to increase your productivity or when you want to concentrate. A remote workers package is something that's not very familiar within the business environment, but is something that happens for new employees all the time when they're in an office environment. You provide a package of tools and kit for every employee. As a remote worker, you just need to adapt this workers package. So rather than providing them with a desktop, provide them with a laptop. Provide secure remote access to resources. You're doing that anyway, hopefully, by having firewalls in place to allow your internal staff to access the internet safely. You've already got permissions set up on your server to limit access to resources. All of this follows over very nicely into our remote workers package. The part where a lot of businesses struggle is accessing the office phone system. This isn't an essential, but it does help your employees to stay in touch with other colleagues. For example, here at NCI, I'm able to access our office-based phone system from my laptop whilst I'm working from home. I'm able to phone and see the availability of any of our staff, but I can also place calls outbound using our office phone system so that they show as me coming from our main office. In our remote workers package, we need to look at other communication tools as well. As I've alluded to previously, you have tools like Microsoft Office 365 and Teams, or Google G Suite and Hangouts. We also need to make sure that our insurances are covering remote workers and home workers, and that our health and safety obligations are met. An example of a health and safety assessment for me working from home was that I had to fill out the UK government's health and safety executive display screen equipment assessment, and then provide our office manager with photos of my working environment to ensure that it was safe for me to work in. It doesn't have to be a big and onerous task, but it does need to be done. As I've said previously, managers that are working in office-based environments find the transition to supporting and managing remote teams very difficult sometimes, and we need to provide them training, support and mentoring. We need to help them find new ways to manage, new technologies and new ways to communicate. We also need to make working from home a normal part of everybody's workplace for it to be successful. If it's viewed as something that's only given to the select few, or it's only something that's given to the special people in the office or the boss's favourites, it will always be viewed with resentment by everybody else. By making it the normal part and offering it to as many staff as your business is able to, it will become more widely accepted and will become more appreciated. There's a number of technologies that are available to us to help support working from home. We have Microsoft Office 365, which a vast number of organisations have taken up during this period. Microsoft saw a surge in up to 150% of new sign-ups every day for their Office 365 products when the start of the COVID-19 outbreak happened. It was a similar figure for Google's G Suites. Both of these are classed as productivity tools and contain your basic Office applications as well as many collaborative features. In Microsoft Office 365, you've got collaborative tools such as Teams, and within G Suite, you've got collaborative working on documents. I'm not going to focus too much on these technologies because they are very business and industry specific. If you'd like to have a wider conversation with me about which one's the right choice for your business, please do get in touch and I'll be more than happy to help and guide you. Some of the other technologies that we need to be thinking about are our firewalls. As I said earlier, I hope that everybody here has got a firewall in place and is protecting their network and is protecting their employees. This may not be the case in every environment. If that's not, I very strongly urge everybody that doesn't have a decent firewall in place to reach out to myself or your trusted IT providers and get that resolved as soon as possible. Not only will it help with your remote working policies, it will also help lowering threats such as cyber attacks and data loss within your organization. The other technology that we need to think about is our phone system. As I've described the NCI phone system, it enables me to work remotely while still being connected to the rest of the team. There are many other technologies out there, and I am more than happy to go through these with each and every one of you. Before we go into our question and answer session, what I'd like to do now is ask everybody to just spend a moment or two thinking about where they are on their remote working journey, and have you learned more? Have you got more knowledge from today's session to enable you to start making informed choices and informed decisions? Whilst you're thinking about that, please do let me know if there's been an increase in the question and answer session. I really do like to receive everybody's feedback on this, and I really do strive to make these sessions as valuable as they can be. Finally, I'd like to say thank you for everybody taking the time to join us today for our session. NCI Technologies training normally hosts these events as in-person events, but with the current situation going on, we're not able to offer these events. So what we'd like to do is to offer more training events remotely. What I'll do now is I'll take the time to go through your questions and answers and sort of pick out the key answers. This session has been recorded, so if you don't wish to stick around for the questions and answers, and I do appreciate that everybody's time is very valuable at the moment, they will be available for review later on this week. So thank you for everybody attending that's going to leave us shortly. Otherwise, we'll now go into the questions and answers session. So in the questions and answers sessions, Joanna has already put up for us the link to our business continuity session, and that is available for you. Yes, we do have a recording of this session being made at the moment, and this will be available. If you would like a copy of the PowerPoint that I've used today, please do reach out to me and I will be more than happy to send this to you. Other than that, we don't seem to have very many other comments coming in. So I will stop talking now and leave today's session open for another 5 minutes for people to type any questions that they've got. Otherwise, I will end the session. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining NCI Technologies and our training team in today's session. If anybody'd like to reach out to me after today's session, please do feel free to drop me an email at jscott@ncitechnologies. Sorry, my email address is jscott@ncitech.co.uk. Otherwise, that's it for today, and I will end today's session. Thank you very much for everybody joining.